American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
Anyone who has visited Atlanta, Georgia, can tell you what a vibrant, exciting, and fast-growing city it is. Truly the hub of the New South. But those who yearn for a more traditional Southern lifestyle still only need journey an hour or so to communities like Homer, Georgia, where life moves at a considerably slower pace, except for one weekend a year, when Homer and its neighboring community of Commerce, Georgia, host the world's fastest sport, NHRA Championship Drag Racing. Today, we bring you the 8th annual AC Delco Southern Nationals from the all-new Atlanta Dragway. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and the fans are pouring into this racetrack today for a once-a-year festival of speed. I say all-new Atlanta Dragway because since our visit here a year ago, almost $4 million has been spent on this track. It is truly one the sport can be proud of. Well, to bring us up to date on what has already happened this exciting weekend, here's Paul Page.
Well, Steve, here at the far end, the first round was extremely predictable. This track, after all, is very, very tough to read. And added to that, the humidity today is really very high, making it hard to tune those motors. As a result, it is a racetrack that favors the veteran, and that's certainly what we saw in first round. In Pro Stock, Bob Glidden, who's had his problems in the first couple events of the season, used his experience and knowledge to be the top qualifier in Pro Stock and win his first round. Now, as to what to expect coming up, let's go to the staging lanes and Don Garlitz.
Thank you, Paul. And as usual, Atlanta offers its own little special problems. The air is never good here, so consequently, these drivers have had to make a lot of adjustments in the fuel systems. In the first round, the low ET Bob Glidden had trouble, so the standouts now are Warren Johnson and Bruce Allen, and they could very well be our best running cars in Pro Stock.
Well, as Dick LaHaye thinks it over, out on the line, it's time for Pro Stock as Tony Christian faces this man, the defending world champion in Pro Stock, Bob Glidden.
Now, Glidden, who struggled a bit at the Gator Nationals a month or so ago down in Florida, seemed to have regained at least some of his championship form. He was the #1 qualifier here, however, fell off a couple of tenths of a second in the first round, but did get this far. So Glidden up against Christian, Thunderbird versus Trans Am. And what a contrast these cars are to the top fuel dragsters. They don't run 280 miles an hour, but they're every bit as hard to drive, if not more so, because you have so much to do. Well, there's the face of the winningest man in drag racing history, Bob Glidden of Whiteland, Indiana. Now, he's facing off with Tony Christian. Christian got into the second round because in round #1, he beat a fellow from Philadelphia named Kenny Koretsky. Let's go back and take a look at that race in round #1, only in a little different fashion than we normally do. Again, from inside the car, another onboard camera. Now, we're running with Kenny Koretsky. You see the Christmas tree in the left-hand corner of your screen? You saw the red light. That's what cost Kenny Koretsky the race, but look how he battles this car down the racetrack, ultimately going for the parachute right there. Kenny Koretsky on the trailer. Tony Christian survives to go into round #2.
Pro Stock provides some of the closest competition in NHRA drag racing. The world champion Bob Glidden on the far side, Tony Christian on the near side. As Glidden inches up to the line, there's the lights. Both come away fairly even off the line as Glidden drives it all over the track, and Tony Christian goes on for the win with a 7:56, 183 miles an hour as Glidden has to give it up.
As we watch the replay, we see that Glidden had a slight starting line advantage as the tree turned green. But that didn't stay there very long because evidently we either had a drivetrain problem or he hit a little slick spot, because notice the car makes a violent move and Glidden has to get out of it because those Pro Stocks, I'll tell you what, they're a handful when they go sideways. And Glidden knows better than anyone else that you don't drive those Pro Stocks when they're acting up like that.
I'm sure, too, he remembers that accident at this very track 2 years ago. Well, Joe LEPONE does his burnout as he's ready in Pro Stock round #2 to face Reed Wisnett. And right in the center of Wisnett's car is the Camera Technologies Diamond P Sports onboard camera. There's the view, Don Garlitz, as the cockpit fills up with smoke from the burnout.
That's just what you get. The smoke comes in there from the wheel wells, and it makes the vision a little blurry.
At the far end, Steve's with Tony Christian.
Anytime you defeat Bob Glidden, no matter the circumstances, it brings a smile to your face. Tony Christian, great job.
Thank you. That made my day.
7:56.
7:56. It's got to go a little bit better, I hope.
I know there's a friendly banter that goes on between you and especially the Glidden boys. What's that all about?
They're just good kids. We get along good. I like them.
He had some handling problems. For sure he did.
It's too bad.
Oh, yeah. He's just crying all the way back to the pits, isn't he?
Tony Christian referring to Bob Glidden's sons, Rusty and Billy. Back up at the starting line, it is Joe LePone Jr. in his Chevrolet Beretta. He had an easy win over Carlos Sanchez in the first round. He faces Reed Wisted. Now, this is his home track, and that Camaro has our onboard camera.
And that Camaro has been operating at its peak the last few races. A tough competitor. Let's ride with Reed Wisted. Oh, and you saw the red light just over the top of the tachometer. Reed Wisted has fouled away what appears to be a very good run. So Joe LePone, by default, really, will go to the semifinals. Oh, Reed Wisted is going to be sick when he sees his 762 was quicker than Joe LePone's 763, but to no avail. And Don Garland, this wasn't a close red light. He left sometime yesterday.
In drag racing terminology, we'd say he left an hour early. And, you know, it wasn't necessary, Steve, because he had the best ET, could have won the race handily.
But you get so psyched up, especially in a very even match like that. Warren Johnson up next. Warren Johnson in the near lane in the Oldsmobile Forenza. Warren from Duluth, Georgia, right down the road, and a graduate engineer from the University of Minnesota. His competition will be this man, Frank Iaconio from New Jersey, who was out of the sport most of last year and has now made the transition from Ford back to the General Motors product he's more familiar with.
Both men ready to go. Johnson the near lane. Iaconio the far lane. Look at the light that Iaconio cuts as he tears away from that starting line. Now Johnson with the job of running him down, and he gets it done. Warren Johnson with a 7:51, 185 miles an hour, and a come-from-behind victory.
The start is brilliant for Iaconio as he gets off the line and practically wins the race right there at the Christmas tree. But Johnson just barely had enough horsepower to end and eased by him by just inches. If it hadn't been for the electronic judging, you would have not known who won this race.
And Warren Johnson had a very respectable reaction time himself. Frank Iaconio just made it look bad with a tremendous start. He may have anticipated just a bit. And Don Garlett's back in the pit area. Eddie Hill's crew is, again, not even taking the cylinder heads off of that engine. That's unusual in this day and age.
There was only one guy in the sport that ever did that before, and that was Dick LaHaye. Last year, he wasn't taking the hits off. Now, Hill has got such a wonderful combination, he's not doing it either.
Back at the starting line, it's the last matchup of round 2 in Pro Stock as Kenny Delco is ready to face Bruce Allen.
We've been hearing a lot about that name, Kenny Delco, recently in our Diamond P sports coverage, and there he is from Center Reach, New York. That is a Trans Am that he drives, and he right now has to be considered definitely in the top 10. Bruce Allen, of course, always in the top 10, if not on top of the famed Rear End Morrison Camaro from Arlington, Texas. Now, earlier in round number 1, it was Bruce Allen faced off with his good friend and arch rival, Butch Leal from Blacklick, Ohio.
Leal was the Winter Nationals winner, and of course this is really a rematch of the final round in Pro Stock from the Gator Nationals, which Bruce Allen won. Now both men came off the line very, very close, but Allen won with a 7:52. Afterwards, Steve talked with Butch Leal.
You know, you blow up the motor that won you 7 national events. That's a psychological blow.
Oh, it just tears your heart out, you know, and you sit here and you won 7 races with it, and you massage it and love it, and yesterday the last qualifying pass, it kicks a ride out, and we, you know, brought tears to my eyes, and as you seen when I got out of the car, I wasn't too pleased, but this one's going to come around, and, you know, we're just going to have to keep in there fighting, you know, we're leading the points, and I just hope that he doesn't go too many rounds and catches me.
See you in Memphis.
Thank you very much.
Butch Leal still leads in the Winston World Championship points fight. In the meantime, as a result of his win in round 1, Bruce Allen comes up to face Kenny Delco.
The RPMs come up to over 8,000 as both drivers stare a hole in that Christmas tree ball. It is a brilliant start by Kenny Delco, and mechanical problems suddenly for Bruce Allen. Kenny Delco, very nice, 762, 182 miles per hour, and much like Bob Glidden, Bruce Allen shuts it down, but I didn't see any obvious handling problems.
No, something else must have went wrong, Steve. It had to be a mechanical problem.
So here are the pairings for the semifinal round in Pro Stock. Delco will face Johnson, and Warren Johnson will have the lane choice. while Tony Christian will take on Joe LePone Jr., and Tony Christian will have his choice of lanes. Coming up next, buddy car action, round number 2. We're back at Atlanta Dragway for the AC Delco Southern Nationals. Over 42,000 people here today for NHRA drag racing. Well, Bob Glidden was beaten in the second round by Tony Christian. Now he's with Steve.
Well, in the solace of his race car trailer, Bob Glidden tries to sort out the weekend. Some good, some bad.
We've had a lot of bad ones here lately, Steve. Another one of those deals. We simply didn't have our act together. We didn't make it down the racetrack again.
You qualified low. Things were all in your favor, really.
Well, during the time we qualified, it was overcast. We didn't have the sun beating down on the track. We made some changes for today, and they were all wrong. The other guys made the right changes. That's racing.
But you're back at the performance level you expect from yourself.
Yeah, close. I don't think we're back where we really should be, but we've been testing a lot, and it's certainly getting better.
See you down the road.
See you in Memphis.
Right. Steve Evans along with Paul Page and Don Garlitz, and it is time right now for the semifinal round of Pro Stock. It will be Tony Christian versus Joe LePone, and now Joe LePone, the Chevy Beretta over in the far lane, has our onboard camera, Paul.
And of course, in Pro Stock, we're talking reading that tree just as close as you can. We see as he reaches down, puts his hand on top of that 4-speed Lingo transmission, grabs a gear as they come off the line. And what LePone can see out the front window is Tony Christian driving away and winning it with a 754, 184 miles an hour.
And I'll tell you what, it's one thing to get beat close, but when you can look through the windshield and see the guy driving away, it gives you a sick feeling right in your stomach.
So Tony Christian moves into the final round in Pro Stock. Who will he face? Will it be Warren Johnson in this machine or Kenny Delco over in the far lane? One thing is certain, that Tony Christian is having the best outing of this season. Right now, he's at the far end with Steve.
Well, Tony Christian, you are finals bound with a 754.
I just need one more. I don't know. Feeling pretty good today, and I don't know, I'm happy.
How did the car respond? Any problems?
No, none at all. Car's flawless.
You're the only guy that hasn't been a complainer down here today.
This Willie Rawls car and this rear Morrison motor, you can't beat it.
Okay, let's go back to the starting line and see who you're going to race.
Okay, hope Warren Johnson.
Well, I'm surprised he wants to face Warren Johnson. Johnson is, after all, a man that is known for all kinds of secrecy in his pit area. Steve took a look earlier.
Well, if you think that's a strange-looking intake manifold on Warren Johnson's Oldsmobile Pro Stocker, you're actually not seeing the intake manifold. This is all cardboard to disguise it, cover it up. The last thing Warren Johnson wants any of his fellow competitors to see is that manifold. And remember, these are open pits. Everybody can spy on everybody else. Bob Glidden does essentially the same thing, because if there are speed secrets in these engines, they're in the manifold or possibly in the cylinder heads. That's where all the development, thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours goes.
Well, Don Garlitz, how much of that is covering up a real secret, and how much of it is a smokescreen to pull your attention from the real trick?
Warren Johnson told me earlier, I was over there looking at that, he said it was intellectual intercourse.
Well, I'm not sure what that means, and I'm not sure that I want to pursue it.
I'm sure I don't. Here is Warren Johnson in the near lane. Kenny Delco on the far side. And a good start by both drivers. A little out of control is Delco, and that cost him, but he's still hanging in there. Anytime these cars go straight, you lose valuable time. Warren Johnson, he did it about as well as you can. Warren Johnson into the final round at a 753, 185 miles per hour. Don Garlitz, you called that one early in the day.
Like I said, if he doesn't break something, he's going to win this race. Look at that beautiful start. Beautiful reaction time. Johnson makes a move toward this championship. Delco gives him a real good race. He's right in there, but you can see the power of that Oldsmobile as he moves on down the track. He just kind of pulls gradually out in front of him, and there's nothing that Delco can do about it. Runs a nice 753, and that's right in there with what he needs to do.
Well, for Warren Johnson, I only have good news. You know you won. You're in a 753, and by 100th, that'll give you lane choice. How important is lane choice in a Pro Stock car here?
Right now, it's not too bad, but the way this track's been going this afternoon with the heat on it and barring an oil down or something like that, it's really unpredictable. So at this point in time, it doesn't seem to be a real problem, but you know how that goes.
I'll tell you, your opponent in the final round, Tony Christian, he's got blood in his eye.
Oh, yeah? So do I.
Should be a great Pro Stock final.
Well, right now, Warren Johnson suggests that lane choice doesn't mean a great deal, but it could mean a lot if we get a bad oil down. So in the final round of Pro Stock, Warren Johnson will face Tony Christian, and as
There is so much to see and do at an NHRA championship drag race such as this one, the AC Delco Southern Nationals at the New Atlanta Dragway. I'm Steve Evans along with Paul Page and Don Garlitz, and a lot of those fans will be headed back to the grandstands now, Big Daddy, because here is the Pro Stock final, and it's a very interesting one.
Johnson, picture of consistency today. He won here in '86, and he could just win here today if he just keeps everything cool. That's really the thing now, the high pressure that's on you at a time like this in the final. You just real prone to making mistakes, Steve.
Well, Tony Christian is becoming a big name in Pro Stock racing recently, but let's remember that he raced in the sportsman classes, modifieds, and gassers for some 20 years with the National Hot Rod Association and won 5 titles there. So I think he's got the poise that it takes. He'll be calm enough coming to the starting line, even though he's never won in this category.
Yes, he has, and he's been in the finals before, so he knows what it's all about. Johnson has got to do everything right, but Christian's got to lean on it just a little bit.
They stage very carefully. The RPMs are up, and look at the wheels in the air for Tony Christian. Can he handle Warren Johnson? Johnson in the far lane, Christian in the near lane. Oh, the big power of the Oldsmobile pays off on the far end. His crew celebrates their second Southern Nationals victory in 3 years. A 751 to a 788 by Tony Christian. I think Christian just saw Johnson running away and may have eased off the gas a bit. Warren Johnson handles it as you predicted early on, Don.
Well, Christian gets him off the line with a little bit of a start there, but Johnson was not going to be denied this weekend. He didn't try anything tricky, no funny deals, just run his race by himself and run a nice 751 over there, and that's what it takes, picture of consistency.
well, he definitely dominated this race. Steve?
Tony Christian still looking for that first national event win, but he came mighty close. He is a wonderful competitor, isn't he, Warren?
Yes, sir. There's no doubt about it. Tony's been around for a while. He's really new to Pro Stock, but he's going to be tough in the years to come. No doubt about it.
A 751 finished it off.
God, I think that's low ET for eliminations, too. I think that's good. I'd like to take this time to devote or wish Dave Gerard, manager of motorsports, SVO for Oldsmobile, a speedy recovery. He's having a little tough time lately, but he'll come through.
A good friend of our own.
Yeah, and without his faith and backing, really, this wouldn't really be possible. The AC Delco Oldsmobile came through just because of him.
Congratulations, WJ.
Thank you, Steve.
Dave Gerard has been fighting a battle with cancer, and we all wish him well.